I'm Tab Pierce. I'm the CEO and founder of Caliber Security Partners. I have Chad Butler here with me. This is video number 2, week number 2, persona number 2. So if you didn't already do so, take time, watch persona 1, which is also video 1 of week 1. The whole premise, the whole reason why we're doing this is our industry. Well, it's not just our industry, it's the world. It's kind of a crazy thing out there. It's the economy's weird. We're seeing layoffs. We're seeing things that are causing us to be uneasy, that discomfort level. And what Chad and I really wanted to do was come together and talk about some of the ways that people can prepare and help people. And so Persona 1 was really about how do you help yourself and maybe help somebody else. This is a deeper dive into that second part of how do you go about helping people. Either maybe it is somebody that was on your staff that got laid off. Maybe it's somebody that is a casual acquaintance on LinkedIn that you know that got laid off, or maybe a former colleague, or maybe somebody really close. I mean, honestly, with this, it doesn't even have to be within security, right? I mean, if you're a good person, maybe you can say, my ability to help can span beyond security. Right. So Chad, how do we go about helping our own community be successful?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I think, you know, if you're a human being who breathes and has a heartbeat and all of that stuff,
which I'm not,
you probably feel bad. I mean, there's survivor guilt is a thing, right? If your company has gone through a round of layoffs and you survived, you're probably feeling relieved and then guilty that you feel relieved and all of those things. So it's tough. But I think the one thing that I learned, and you know, it wasn't that long ago that we were going through this same thing with COVID, 2020, lots of people getting laid off and furloughed and all of that stuff. The thing that I learned during that period of our lives is that, your network is really valuable, and whether you think it is or not, you can actually help somebody with the network that you have. And I think if you ask somebody, hey, like, you've got a really powerful network, a lot of people would be like, not really. I know a few people. But if you really start thinking about it, everybody has worked with managers that they liked who may be hiring right now. They've worked with recruiters that they liked and who are probably recruiting right now, or others that could direct them to the right people. So your network is super, super valuable.
And we talked about this, but reaching out to people and letting people know that you are looking is really valuable. I mean, that happened to you and me, right? I mean, there have been times when people have reached out to you and said, I'm looking, and there's been times when I've reached out to you and said, not that I'm looking, but I'm looking for a certain skill set. Yeah.
In fact, early in 2020, I was in this same situation where I was seeing all of the layoffs and felt bad. And so I just sent out a post on LinkedIn saying, hey, if I can help, if there's anybody in my network that you want a recommendation to or introduction to, let me know. If I can help in any way, let me know. And somebody reached out. And this person, I had never met her before. I didn't know who she was. And kudos to her, because frankly, I think it takes a lot of guts to reach out to somebody that you don't know and ask them for a reference. But she did. And I was like, of course. And I put her in contact with you, and you guys just happened to be hiring, and it was a happy ending. You found somebody to do the job, and she got a job out of it. It was awesome.
And that particular situation was one where everything kind of came together. But it can't come together if somebody breaks the link. Mm-hmm. Somebody has to come and say, I'm looking. Somebody has to say, I'm looking for somebody. And all of that comes together. And whether we think we are or not, we end up being a hub. And sometimes somebody reaches out and says, I'm a pen tester that does this particular thing. And you're like, well, we're not hiring, but I'll keep an eye out for you. And then it becomes kind of like you buy a purple Mercedes and like, you're like, I got the only purple Mercedes on the planet. And all of a sudden you're driving down the road and you're like, man, does everybody have a purple Mercedes? It's like there's none. And then all of a sudden they're out there.
Yeah.
And so if you're aware, then all of a sudden what people are saying out there becomes kind of front and center for you as the hub.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're willing to help, let people know. I mean, put it out there. Like, I'm willing to introduce you to people. If you need help, let me know. And people may not respond, but if they really need it, they will, and you may be able to help them. So.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about how like I'm an extrovert. Like if there's like an extrovert on a scale, I'm like an extrovert with an A or something like that, where it's like I'm like the overkill extrovert, which is like really the antithesis of what anybody in security is, right? But what happens is when you put yourself out there, people notice. And like I was talking to my son who's looking for work. I said, put your resume out there, put it, and then just like start like tagging everybody, like Chad Butler, Tab Pierce, all these, and just tag everybody, excuse me, and tag them in a series, and just think, who cares?
Yeah.
What's somebody going to say? Like, don't tag me? Okay, yeah. Well, that's okay because you just happen to be the person I don't want helping me because you're that heartless soul that doesn't have a pulse and isn't human.
Yeah.
But we really have to. If it really depends on how bad you need it, right? Yep. I mean, if you need a job bad enough,
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you mentioned that. In the previous episode, I talked about this talk I just listened to a few days ago at a local security conference here. And the guy talking mentioned, exactly what you talked about as kind of like the hacker way to contact somebody on LinkedIn. They may not allow you to message them unless you're a friend or unless, you've paid for LinkedIn Premium Professional, whatever it is. But if you go and tag one of their comments and say, hey, at so-and-so, really love to talk to you. Would it be possible to get some time to talk about a job? Guess what? They're going to get a message. They're going to get a notification, and you've just gotten around the friend zone firewall.
Yeah, and most of us really want to help, even if we don't have something to give them. We want to help them, and one of the things that we tend to forget about is the human side of being out of work, right? I mean, when we're fully employed, we're feeling good, whatever, like I could leave this job and go get a job doing whatever anywhere I want. But when we're unemployed, sometimes we don't feel very good. So how do we go about helping those people that like might feel like they've been punched in the gut?
Yeah. Man, I mean, I think check in on them, especially if it's a close friend, make sure they're doing okay, because it can get rough. It can get pretty dark. Like you said, you may have a feeling like I can get a job anytime I want, but when you don't have a job and then people aren't like beating down your door all of a sudden,
you're not feeling quite as cocky as you used to, right? Yeah. That human side comes in. Life really happens.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, let them vent, reassure them, offer to, do whatever you can, review their resume, help them, do like mock interviews with them or whatever it takes to help them get their confidence up.
Yeah. I mean, have them because so often when you're in the midst of it, when you're in that situation, you see things, you get your blinders on.
Yeah.
Right? You just have your blinders on, and what you don't stop and think of is, should I go look at? I have an interview. Should I go look at the person's resume or their LinkedIn profile or not? What should I do? What's okay? What's not? And so we end up getting blinders on, and we need that outside person to come along. Like for me, I would say to people like open up your LinkedIn, make sure, don't be hidden. Make sure you're seen, and then go look at that hiring manager's profile. Yeah. That hiring manager knows, like, Tab Pierce looked at your profile, right, because you want, and even though I own this company, I own Caliber, dude, I'm a sales guy at heart, right? I'm always going to be a sales guy, right? And so it's like I'm wide open, so I'm like, I don't want people to go, oh, Tab Pierce is on here looking.
Yeah.
Crap, wonder what that dude wants.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Like, open it up and let people know that you're looking, because you need to be able to really, like kind of get in their head that you are a viable candidate.
Yeah. Be present. Totally. It's like, I don't know. The analogy I would use, I had a work meeting a while back, and we went out for lunch and came back, and it's a bunch of executives there, and so there's like a table in the middle and then chairs around the side, and the chairs around the side were filling up, and there were still seats at the table, and I thought, how can you complain about not having a seat at the table if there's a seat right there and you're not taking it? So, I agree.
Like, I'm going to sit on the sideline.
So yeah, get your name out there and let it known. The other thing I was going to say, in terms of helping people and building up their confidence, we talked in the last episode about how we self-sabotage and disqualify ourselves. Like, make them tell you what job postings they're looking at, and if they're disqualifying themselves, think of what you would, you looking at a job posting versus your best friend. Your best friend is totally going to pump you up. Dude, you totally got that. You're perfect for this job. Be that type of person for your friend or whoever's looking. Build them up, give them the confidence to at least apply.
All right, so let's wrap up this episode, but how about this? Both of us give 2 pieces of advice. I'm putting you on the spot. Give 2 pieces of advice to somebody that just contacts you and says, I'm out of work, I was laid off, whatever. What would you tell me to, like, point me in the direction that I need to go?
The first thing I'd say is, do the same thing you're doing with me with everyone else you can think of. Like, the people that you've had positive relationships with throughout your career, whether they're from school, from past jobs, recruiters that have reached out to you, whatever, send the blast out and let people know. Do the same thing. And then the second thing I would say is, start prepping as you're looking at job openings. Research those companies, see what they want. Do what you were saying. Reach out to people within their LinkedIn page that are employed by them already. Do everything you can to kind of get your name to the top of that list.
All right. So here's my 2. One of them is pretty much what you said, and that is network. Network. Talk to everybody. Don't be afraid to talk to everybody. If you look and you're like, oh, that person's, I can't remember. It was I'm drawing a blank, the CEO of Microsoft, right? The current CEO. I'm drawing a blank. As soon as he was made CEO, I'm just pinging him. I'm just like annihilating him. And I'm like, every single possible way I could get a hold of him. And you know what happened? Nothing. He never contacted me, right? We still haven't talked. But that's okay, right? I mean, you have to put yourself out there. And now you look at it, and he doesn't know who I am, and obviously I don't know who he is.
Maybe if he remembered his name, he would have reached back out.
So maybe so. But I typed it out. It was right there. I even double-checked the spelling and everything. The second thing I would tell people is, don't let your foot off the gas. You need to find a job. You're on the 4th interview. You're thinking to yourself, I've got this. They love me. I love them. This is a match made in heaven. Do not let your foot off the gas ever. Your job is to look for work.
Yep.
And, if you were putting in 8 hours a day working, put in 8 hours a day looking, and make that your job until you get a job, and keep going until you're hired, because you don't know. You don't know if they love you and you love them, and all of a sudden they get a stop hire.
Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe it's perfect and you love them and everything else, and then this other pretty job comes along and they're paying you twice as much as those people were gonna. All of a sudden, just keep looking. Just don't let the foot off the gas.
It's always good to have options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Multiple offers is the best.
Yeah,
best place to
multiple
be.
options or options and multiple offers is a great way to get you back into that. I can get a job anytime I want feeling that you had. All right. So, Chad, thanks a lot. Appreciate you doing this again, this segment. This is segment 2, Persona 2. We're going to go on next week, Persona 3. And we look forward to you joining us. Take a look at Persona 1 and familiarize yourself with that. But thank you. Thanks, Chad, for joining us.
Thanks, Deb.